Welcome, everyone. Dr. Josh Long here with AME Podcast, my quest to talk to folks who are really into lifelong learning and music engagement. The folks that I always say continue playing music beyond the classroom, and folks who also offer music making opportunities beyond the classroom, too, for individuals to perform throughout their life. It's so exciting for me because I just like to see folks continue making music, and it's not just happening in the schools, as I say. We're sponsored by Art and Music Emporium, serving artistic excellence. We do things such as fix instruments. We also run some performance initiatives if you're interested. One being the annual Community Band by the Sea down in Wildwood, New Jersey. Happens the last weekend in July every year. We're also running the Bethlehem Steel Company Legacy Band, which is going to be in October this year of 2025. Both of those performances anybody can be a part of. We actually have one rehearsal prior. We get you music prior to that. We have our one rehearsal and then our concert. So do check us out at www.artmusicemporium.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel. We would love to see some of the videos that we come out that you be interactive with us and see some of the cool things that we've been doing. We're also give us a like on Facebook, and as well as I have a Patreon account, and all the proceeds for that goes into helping people continue making music beyond the classroom, the lifelong music engagement, as I keep saying and keep saying in this podcast. I'm so excited about our next guest that's on this podcast. I've met him as I've kind of been in the Hudson Valley of New York. I've watched him be in all kinds of different community groups. I've also seen him perform and be a conductor in a different couple orchestras as well as community orchestras. And it's really interesting to me to just see how of a fun guy he is and also how he takes the time to help people make music because that's what's important. What is also a neat thing, which I know he's known for, is he's actually a conductor. And what I mean by that is he's actually a conductor on a rail line and also conducts music. So it's kind of a really cool facet of him. So please welcome conductor Rich Simons. How are you, Rich?
Hello.
Well, thank
I
you.
tell people that if I get electrocuted on the third rail and die, then they'll say conducting was his life.
I know, and it's so cool that you have that connection to that too. And I know there's been I think there was a publication about that a while back about you doing both, if
There
I'm
was
not
something in the
mistaken.
Times about it, and I know one other fella in California who's a school teacher, so he conducts their orchestra, and he's a conductor for a scenic railway on the weekends. So another conductor. Other than that, I've heard tell of decades ago that there was one in Switzerland and one in Long Island, but it's definitely a small club.
Well, that's awesome, and it's so great to hear you doing both and get those interests with the rail and music. So hey, I want to take a quick gander back into talking a little bit. I start with most of our guests with this just to get an idea of where they started with music. And again, you don't have to tell us the whole history, but I always like to ask like how you got involved with music at whatever age it was.
I started off in elementary school like so many
Okay.
with the drums. And I don't think I was very good at it. I think I struggled to learn to read music. And when I got to the middle school, uh, I wasn't good enough to make it into the band. And so I ended up in the chorus and I did that. And of course, at the time, music wasn't such a strong thing. There was a lot of music in my family, but it wasn't. I remember making trouble in the chorus more than I remember actually participating in a positive way. But going into high school, one of my sisters knew that they were going to be shy a double bass player in a couple of years. And so she said, "Hey, you should play the double bass. They're going to need one in the high school, and you could do this."
Hmm.
And that was the click. That was the immediate thing that stuck. And yeah, my life would be entirely different without that.
Yeah.
That was a savior in many ways.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
cool. And you learn that, and I know you were doing some music things kind of earlier, but you learned that kind of in your later years of school, right? And then it kind of clicked. Now, was it more of did you jump right into it? with the bass in high school then, or was it,
Oh yeah, I took to it in a big way.
okay.
I was not known for being a good student, and when it came time for graduation, they said, "Look, he does really well in all his music classes, not so well in everything else, but he wants to go study music, so let's get rid of him. I mean, let's get him out of here." And in all honesty, though, I give a lot of credit to the people who were in charge at the high school because they really, by rights, they could have held me back, and they chose not to.
Okay.
And I think, from my perspective, now I'm so glad they did what they did because the second I got to college, I was doing what I wanted to do, and I got a real bug for learning that I had never had through
Hmm.
my formative years. So college was an incredible experience of opening up to all kinds of things that I never cared about before. So I'm very thankful to the people at the school that said, "Yeah, let him go." Their hunch paid off
Yeah,
in my
yeah,
case.
that's cool. Well, the only reason I asked that question, I think I've shared this with you before, and you were doing a little bit more of music than I was prior, but I it was ninth grade. I actually started with euphonium, and I didn't do anything prior to that other than the normal classroom music that existed, within the school district. So it's kind of
Not too
neat to
many
hear.
people.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to hear that, you kind of latched onto it and then you went to college with it because that was something with me. I always joke the senior year, I think I had a ton of music courses and I was just excelling at them and I just enjoyed it so much. And then, at first, nothing against business. I went for business in college and at first, I'm like, yeah, no.
You're not gonna get any kind of shame from me because after all, I got all those degrees in music and then got a job on the railroad. So I
So if
tell
I
people that pays the bills and the other one takes care of my heart. So
Yeah, 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 and we're gonna actually get into that in a second here. But I thought, first of all, and you went off you for undergrad. Was it performance? Is that what you went for? Or?
I started in education,
Oh, you started with
and
education. Okay.
there was I'm such I mean there's so many lucky experiences,
Yeah,
but
sure.
there was a general education teacher who he made a point to the class. It was one of these 100 kids in the class kind of things. And he started off right away, guys. Some of you are here because you want to be a great sports person or you want to be a great musician or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, you are doing an education degree because you want to have something to fall back on.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mr. Bergen was his name, and he said, "Trust me, you're making the wrong choice." He said, "If you're here because you wake up every day that you want to teach kids, stay. If you're
Mm-hmm.
here because you want to be that great baseball player or you want to be that great musician, go do that. Because if you don't put all your eggs in that
Mm-hmm.
basket of those things,
Yep.
you don't stand a chance. Because
Yep.
the people who are great in those things are the ones who dedicated themselves to just that. If
Mm-hmm.
you're taking this class already and all the other things that go with a music education degree, you're wasting your time.
Mm-hmm.
Go do the thing that you have the dream to do, unless that dream is you want to teach, then teach.
Mm-hmm.
That was the best thing ever, and it wasn't long before that after that I changed from an education degree to a performance degree.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's kind of following that kind of passion, and and
Yes.
it's kind of going on to that. I know they talk about that, though. I know there's an argument about it in the higher ed world, as I say it, who talk about that all the time because a lot of people who are professional musicians, and or going for that, performance side of it, end up teaching anyway, and I mean, essentially, you do that now anyway, if you think
Well,
about
actually, when I yeah, that's true. But
it.
when I left, when I got married
Yeah.
and was trying to set out and make a career as a musician, I
Hmm.
ended up doing a good deal of subbing.
Hmm.
I hated that with such a passion.
Hmm.
Subbing was terrible.
Yeah.
As anybody who's done it knows. I
Yep.
mean, that's a special kind of person to do that too.
Yeah.
But it was just so clear, like that was the best thing ever not to go into this because it wasn't my passion. You
Yeah.
know, it was I wanted to perform.
Yeah.
And more than that, at the time, I wanted to be a double bass soloist of all things, and maybe teach in a college. And you know, I worked hard, and I had a horrible breakup with a girlfriend because
Hmm.
there was a clash between music and time with her, and that was horrible.
Yeah.
But I stuck with the music at the time,
Mhm.
and you know a decision in life, that's what it was. But um, I went off to study with Gary Carr at the Hart School of Music, and
Mhm.
like aiming for as far as I could go. And I I don't know
Mhm.
where, I mean, paths change, things go in different places, and I ended up, I suppose I passed on love for music, a love for a girl for love for music, and then later on I passed on the love for music for a love for a girl. I don't know that that's actually true, but then I got married. My graduation and my wife's undergraduate graduation, we went to school at Hart together. I
Mhm.
proposed at the graduation ceremony.
Okay.
And so at that point, it was a matter of getting ready for marriage, and so I had to take some jobs to
Yeah.
make some money and get things set for that.
Yeah.
So I I don't know. My path morphed into different things at different times,
Yeah.
and I think that the goal of being a double bass soloist was in some way supplanted by the goal of being a conductor.
Yeah. Okay.
That was I don't know which, I couldn't say which is the greater passion because I love them both, but
Hmm.
conducting is awesome. It's
Yeah.
it's it's such an incredible world, and I feel exceptionally lucky to be a part of it. But
Mhm.
once I got that bug, that wasn't something to let go of.
Right. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I get that.
Yeah, I know
Well,
you do.
yeah. One thing that you're thinking about, and before I want to get into that kind of bug of conducting, what was it about music that really kept you so motivated? You know what I mean? To where you made those choices in the beginning. And I mean, I know we all have to kind of make the choices, and I work jobs that are not music
Yep,
making,
as
so
many
we
of
all
us
do
do.
it. So,
Yeah,
but
well,
I'm just interested to
that
hear
that in
like,
itself is a whole, not just a book, but a whole series. The
yes,
idea that you can't, unless, I mean, it's in some way it is like the sports thing before it.
yeah,
Unless you make it into that top echelon, how do
yes,
you survive? How
yep,
do you make a living that is going to provide for a family and a
yep,
house and provide for your kids'
yep,
college and all that? Good luck.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know how. I don't know
yeah,
how people do it,
yep,
if they even do it.
yep,
I'm very lucky that for me, I can make music and I don't have to worry too much about the money
yeah,
because of the rare, because I
yeah,
found a decent gig. That's essential,
yeah.
you know, and it's a shame that that's true. But
Yeah, I know. I think about that all the time. I know, like, I have so many people who, talk about that, or, even with me, they think I just teach music, and I don't. I do quite a bit of other things. I mean, even when we had a retail business at the time, I was mowing lawns, kind
yeah,
of because you have to always have something else going on,
and
because
I had a student in my undergraduate, which was in South Carolina, and
okay,
he's now, I forget the name of the town where he is,
okay,
but he's in Norway,
yeah,
and he plays for an orchestra there,
hmm,
and he has a great sustenance of, his life is
yeah,
on par with what I do, but he's playing in an orchestra. It's like, how how are you living on this? But they
yep,
take care of it there.
yep,
I That's
yep,
wonderful. I'm so
yep,
happy that he can do that. I'm
yeah,
happy that anyone can do that,
yeah.
but it doesn't happen here in America.
Yeah, no, I know we talk about it. I think this was something we always talked about in college. I think it sounds great for musicians, but I think the highest paid in United States is six figures. Okay, and the 100,000. Okay, that's wonderful, but in today's world,
Yeah, and then
it's
you have to
nothing.
live in a major metropolitan area. Like, so good luck.
Exactly, it's nothing.
So as I understand it, all those people teach
Yep.
to supplement their income.
Yeah.
You know, okay, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I as much as I hated substitute teaching for high school and
Mhm.
middle school and that kind of thing, uh, teaching at a collegiate level is much different. It's
Yep.
it's a lot better for my taste. You know, I
Yeah.
can deal with dealing with somebody as a, you know, another adult. That's great,
Uh-huh.
you know. And plus, when somebody's paying for college, they want to be there.
hmm
That makes a big difference too.
It does. It does. And especially, in the like I said, in the groups that you tend to get, especially, because I know, the ones that they might have music but they want to be there. It's not,
Yeah,
they don't have to be in those ensembles. I'll say it that way.
right.
Where some of the schools, as you're either required or, you know where I'm going with
Right.
that.
I do. And of course, like I said, when I was in middle school, I was one of those troublemakers. I it didn't mean much to me then, you know. So I get it from both perspectives. I remember, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be in the public schools.
Yeah. No, I get it. So like what through this process and where you are even today, and again, I want to go to conducting here in a second, but what clicked for you as a musician that really made you really want to study music, really wanted to play, wanted to be, I mean, I know it's morphed into different things today, but really wanted you to perceive, double bass and be a double bass soloist and to go on to grad school and to, do all those kind of things. Like what was it about the music? I'll ask it that way.
I think you know, my family was there. You know, everybody in my family played something. You
Okay.
know,
hmm
yeah, we joked that my mom, who didn't really play an instrument, she played the radio. That was the best she could do. Although when she was young, she played the accordion. But um, I I don't remember like it was a you know, a switch or a particular day, but I know
hmm
that through high school I did well on the double bass. I got into
hmm
area all state, and I was in the local youth orchestra, and uh, it was going well.
hmm
It was one of the things that I did that
hmm
I seemed to have an aptitude for and got praised. And there was it makes perfect sense looking at it, even for, you know, looking down on it from the outside and saying, well, of course it was something I like to do, because people supported me and said, oh, you do that well, so all right, I'll do more of that, you know.
Yeah.
If it was just the praise alone. But I really enjoy the double bass. I mean, it's a fantastic instrument. Well, I mean, you play typically euphonium, right? That's your
Yeah,
main, or
typically.
trombone, or
Yeah.
you,
Yeah, you're fine.
us in the bass world, we have much work to do to get just noticed, right?
Yep.
So it's 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 an unsung hero.
hmm
And even, I mean, it's not like at the time I felt like, you know, I have an easy chance of things, because I didn't. But the world, in the double bass world, has gone completely head over heels in the last 30 to 40 years.
Okay.
The standard of playing that I did when I was getting into college, I couldn't get into a college now to play as I did then. They would have just said, no, 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 come back in another couple of years when you've learned how to play the bass.
hmm
I I can't believe I go to the, you know, the International Society of Bassists conventions,
Yep.
and the level of playing from young kids is just mind-boggling.
hmm
They can play so well, and it's fantastic. It's
hmm
great for the instrument. But you know, at that point, if you could draw the bow on the string and get a good sound, generally they were like, here, play in this orchestra, you know, because it was hard to find people who could just make a decent sound on it.
Right.
And it
hmm
I was I look I think I was okay.
hmm
But you know, I couldn't survive in today's world with the level that I played then.
Yeah.
That it wouldn't meet it.
Yeah.
That it's much better now.
Yeah. Very
So,
interesting. That's
so I was
cool.
lucky. I was at a good time. And then actually, when I went to the University of South Carolina, um there it's a big school,
hmm
and their orchestra was just getting to the point where they could not have to have people from the community come play in it with them.
Okay. That's cool.
So they
Yeah.
were very keen to have a double bass student, because that meant they didn't have to hire community members to come play in the
Yep.
orchestra. So there were
Mhm.
two of us I know uh, that we got in, and they were so happy to have us. They made us play everything, you know.
Yeah.
And the bass teacher at the time, he was a composition teacher who happened to play the bass. And so they didn't really have a bass teacher, but he was great. He was just what I
Yeah.
needed at the time, and I don't look down on him at all. He was fantastic.
Yeah.
Now they have a much bigger school, and they have a bass teacher of merit that is specifically. But um, I even got in to the South Carolina Philharmonic when I had no business being there whatsoever,
Hmm.
just because there weren't bass players in the community.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so I was lucky there too, because
yeah.
here I am. I can barely get past the neck of the instrument, which you're talking about the D over the bass staff. It's like
Uh,
it's nothing. It's really, there's so much more to go. And I'm playing the Barber Violin Concerto with Nadia Solana Sonnenberg in this orchestra, and I can't count the rhythms, and I'm just watching the first bass player and moving the bow when he moves, because I have no idea what I'm doing. But that was great because it threw me into the deep end,
yep.
and I had to learn,
You had to
and I
learn, right?
wanted to learn. So it was a really great opportunity, and it forced me to learn quick.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting you say that because that's actually it's a philosophy that I've been kind of thinking about and thinking about with learning. Just if that you want to do, if you want to do it, you'll do it. So, for example, I know this was
Yes,
high school for me, but I started in ninth grade and I could play a whole note. By the end of ninth grade. I mean, it was horrible. Like my first concert, that's all I did. Whole notes, in all the pieces. And then, the high school band director, started giving me some lessons and he gave me Sleigh Ride. And he's like, this is what we're going to play. And I looked at it like it was ancient Greek, so it was like I had no business in playing that piece at that time, but surely I did, but I find that if you're motivated and you're challenged enough, you can do it, and I did. And was it the greatest? No, but it set me up for, fast track of learning, and
you
then
rose to the occasion.
yeah, and and there's no ego here, but I always say I caught up to the seniors by the time I was a senior and I was going off to college and I had to fill in the gaps of holes, for the next about a year before I could go into college, filling in the gaps that I still needed, before the next, endeavor of being in college as a music major, so it's like you think about that, it's like it, and that's kind of something that I like because I think people will rise to the occasion. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think it matters that probably the same for you as me, that we both wanted to.
Yep. Hmm.
I'm sure some folks, if you throw them in the deep end, they'll drown.
Yep. Hmm. Yep.
If they don't care, or if they don't want
Yep.
to,
Yep.
you can't make them.
You can't make them, right? Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah, I know it's just and it's interesting because it's like and on the side of that, that's kind of like one of the interests I have been with, community groups, for example, and I know you do the same kind of thing. You're not playing the watered down music. You're not playing the
No, yeah, I prefer for the community groups to do the real thing if
Hmm.
it's possible,
Yep.
and sometimes even when it's not possible. But
Yep.
uh, the thing is that the response I've gotten back from that is that people appreciate it.
Hmm. Yep.
They some I mean, there's always folks that open their case at rehearsal, play the rehearsal, and then close the case at the end of the rehearsal and don't open it until next week.
Yep.
And to me, that's not really trying. They may, I'm not
Hmm.
knocking
Yeah.
their enjoyment of playing, but if you're trying to do something, then
Hmm.
it means you're investing something more than just being at the rehearsal. You know,
Right. Right.
that's so I I I find some of those folks don't want to do the original tunes. They want to do the watered down things.
Yep.
But the vast majority of people that I have spoken with about this, they don't want to be handheld in the sense of the
Hmm.
repertoire. They
Right.
you know if you can give them something and say, no, this is the same thing that you're recording the New York Philharmonic plays. This is exactly the same music.
Right.
This is you have the same thing.
Hmm.
They find that challenging and exciting, and they tend to
Hmm.
like it. You
Hmm.
know, most of them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's okay. It's like I'm so happy when anybody can enjoy music,
Mhm.
but I can't, as a community orchestra leader, you can't make everybody happy. So
Yeah.
you got to find a balance somehow.
Yeah.
And uh, I actually, one of the groups that I conduct, I used to conduct them 20 years ago,
Okay.
and I went with the okay, we'll always do the watered down stuff. And there were some other issues, but it was horribly frustrating
Hmm.
because it didn't change the engagement of the people that I was describing that closed the case and don't open it for the week. Their engagement was the same, but the music wasn't exciting.
Yeah.
So it was not good for anyone.
Right. Right.
Now
Yeah.
I'm back in that same orchestra again, and I have a different approach, and I'm
Yeah.
taking things, much more like we'll do the real stuff, and the engagement level is enhanced. So I feel like I have some sort of basis upon which to say, yeah, this is the right thing to do. There's still the folks that with the closed case all week, but
Yeah.
not as many.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that. I experienced that. And I think I might have told you about this, but I did a recital because I did a conducting degree and I did a recital. And typical recital was that you would pick members within the college. It was at Penn State, so we'd pick, the grad students or, some of the more top undergrad people, put together a group, and, do a band, recital basically with me conducting. I wanted to use a community group. So, of course, that's what I did, which was different. I'm surprised that they actually let me do it, but they knew who I was and what I liked and those kind of things, and they let me do it. But the funny thing was selling it to the band, and I asked them, and they're like, "Oh, sure, yeah, we can do this." And I said, "So the pieces are going to be harder." "Oh, and that's fine, we can do it." Then it was like the next week, "I don't think we can do this." That was the freak out because I was talking to my daughter and they were saying everything has to be perfect. And I go, I wouldn't have asked you if you couldn't do it. And we did it. And it was
Yeah,
probably one of their, I mean, they still, they do quite a bit of other performances, but, I still hear about that performance, when I talk to them, just because it
yeah,
was something that was, important. And they knew how important it was for me and for them. And they were on a stage they never been on. So you get where I'm going with all of this. And
yes.
it's like, I find that challenge is kind of cool, and
Yeah, it is. Well, it's exciting as a conductor too that if you push them and they, like we were talking before about the deep end, if you push them
yeah,
and they swim,
yep.
that's freaking great, man.
Yes,
That
it is.
that's because you had a hand in setting up the experiment, but they actually rose to the occasion,
Exactly. Yeah.
and
Yep.
that's wonderful.
Yep.
And they know that. They
Yep.
know that they did something wonderful, and it's reciprocal because you feel great and they feel great, and it's that kind of thing is actually something that makes everybody happy, but it
Yeah.
takes effort to get there.
Yes. Yeah, and well, and it's just it. And then of course, keeping them guiding so that they don't, throw a couple,
Yes.
as I say, as we're, life preservers, a few, not many, so they can float a little bit.
Well, but the thing is, you do have times where things crash and burn,
Yep.
and that's all right because
Yeah.
if you wanted perfection, you would just have your computer play it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And even AI will make mistakes if you program it to do that. Make 87% accuracy, and it will do exactly what you tell it to. But you can get 87% accuracy from a group of people that and they're your friends, and AI doesn't duplicate your friends.
Yeah.
When you go out to a
Mhm.
performance and the people in the group, that's never going to be something a computer will duplicate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
To be out and support your friends doing something that's creative like that, that's wholly human.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. And that kind of brings me, you kept talking about this, feeling of being a conductor and the craze. And I know what the craze is, but I'm interested to, hear what you have to say about it. Just because, I see you strive with what I think you're at, let's see here, two community college orchestras, right? And a community, another community orchestra. And, you
Yeah.
know, and I see you guys conduct a lot too. So it's like, I'm just interested if you want to um, kind of talk a little bit about that.
Um, well, when I was doing my undergraduate, there was a program in the summertime there called the
Mhm.
Conductors Institute,
Okay.
and
Hmm.
a pretty well known program, I guess.
Hmm.
I know that there were some pretty important people that came. I gave Gunther Schuler a ride to the airport at one point because I was involved in helping to run it. But
Yeah, yeah.
I was involved in the program in South Carolina as a
Hmm.
bass player in the orchestra, you know.
Okay.
So
Hmm.
I got involved at some point. I was the librarian, at some point I was the personnel contractor, and
Yeah.
I got to know Harold Farberman and Don Portnoy, who were running the
Hmm.
program.
Hmm.
Okay, you know, and for all that it was, I was there as an observer, and there was a core group of us
Yeah.
that were regulars. Each year we would participate in the orchestra, and the camaraderie that came with that was such that it actually included some of the organizers and the guests who came, you know, that
Okay.
we would go out drinking or play poker together or whatever, you know, that kind of thing. It was
Yeah.
fun. But there was a point where a few of us uh, said, you know, we've been doing this Conductors Institute orchestra, and there are these at that point scores of conductors who we had watched and who even the organizers would ask the orchestra sometimes, "What do you think about this conducting thing?" So we had participated in the critiques,
Yeah.
and you know, you see it for so long, and you start to say, I think I could do this.
Hmm. Yep.
So I know that Paul DeLude and I, he was a violist. Two of us said, let's start orchestras.
Hmm.
And so he started the Boston Virtuosi, which I think is still a going concern. I haven't been in touch with Paul in a while, but
Hmm.
uh, I started this little orchestra in Croton. It was, and I never intended it to be anything more than a community orchestra, but we started it, and the church that I was going to, we did it as a benefit for the new organ that they were going to get,
Okay. Hmm.
and it went so well that we decided to do it again and again and again, and uh, I had never conducted before, so you know here it is. I'm just a ignorant brazen person who's put in a position of well, let's do this.
Yeah.
And it went well, and it was it was the experience of, you know, doing that's fun. I want to do more of that, you know.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
um the the orchestra, that was 93. So now we've been going for quite a while. We
Hmm.
just did a combined concert with the Warwick Valley Chorale, you know, and
Hmm.
we did the Mozart Requiem, and that was our 99th concert. We are about to do our 100th performance after just yeah, let's try this, you know.
Yeah.
I'm astounded by that, but
Yeah.
it's not up for debate. That's what happened, you know. And the choir director at the church had was also at Marist College in Poughkeepsie,
Hmm.
and he didn't care for the conductor of the orchestra there.
Okay.
So he said, "Look, I'd like you to come conduct the orchestra at Marist."
Hmm.
Okay, sure. You know, I don't have. No, you're fine. Don't worry about it. You could do it. So it turns out that orchestra was one of the community orchestras that I mentioned I did before, and then now doing again. That was the Mid Hudson Community Orchestra was in
Hmm.
residence at Marist, and he basically bumped their conductor for me, which I'm still not happy the way that turned out, and there were some
Sure.
hurt feelings that lingered. But um, two two orchestras. Then down the road, uh, the conductor of the SUNY Orange Orchestra was leaving. She was going to Connecticut, which is where she grew up, and
Hmm.
she had to leave. And so she recommended that I take her spot when she left, which they were happy to do because they didn't have to search for a conductor.
Right.
So three, three orchestras. I'm the luckiest of people. I
Hmm.
really am. And all of the things that seem to happen, it's I don't have to win the lottery. I already did. You know what I mean? It's all there's so much luck. And even many of the orchestras and things that I ever got into, like that thing that I mentioned with the South Carolina Philharmonic, I never auditioned for that.
Hmm.
You
Yep.
couldn't get into an orchestra like that now without an audition. It's just not going to happen. I didn't
Right.
audition. I was in there. It just my teacher said, "Yeah, he's good." Just complete utter luck.
Yeah.
Even back to the thing about high school, they could have held me back. They said, "No, go, go." Lucky.
That's awesome. Well, it's cool you stumble
Yeah.
on these experiences because I think you've, and you've rise to the occasion, of all of
I
them.
hope.
Yeah.
I don't, as much as I recognize, I should be humble about it because
Mhm.
I know that I didn't, the orchestra I started, that was my effort.
Right. Hmm.
Everything else I kind of stumbled into.
Hmm.
So I'm I I don't I don't feel like I should approach that from any other position than,
Right.
just complete humility and thanks that I'm there. And then to take that and try and turn it into something that I can convince other people to get some of that enjoyment out of music, which is,
Hmm.
as you know, what I'm primarily about is trying to find people who
Right.
played and stop and bring them back.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and that's cool that you're doing that just because, I mean, you're offering those experiences for folks, and especially when, and I know we've had this conversation and we can kind of go there right now a little bit. Because I
Yeah,
remember
very
there
like.
was one night after, the Mid Hudson Orchestra, we were sitting outside. I still remember it was raining.
Yes, I remember that.
We're under umbrellas talking about this of all
And it was such
places.
a good conversation. We
Yeah,
we couldn't stop, even though we
yeah.
were getting wet.
I know. But, we always talk about this, about participants to come out and perform, and one of the things that you brought up was very interesting of folks who don't believe that they can't play anymore. I did this
Right.
before, I stopped. It's been 20 years or whatever it's been,
Oh, the
and
pandemic did horrible things to people for that too.
mhm,
People's confidence was through the floor because they
yeah,
only took a couple of years that they stopped playing and they feel like they can't do it anymore.
yeah,
It's so not true.
hmm, yeah,
So not true. It's the bike,
yeah,
proverbially speaking. You just get back on, it'll be fine. You'll be all right.
yeah. Yeah, and I know we were talking about that. So where to find those people, just because, they tend to, and this is, whether or not anybody even, I always say this, and whether or not anybody watches this podcast or does anything that I even do, it's just my point is you can do it. I mean, goodness gracious. I
Yes.
mean, if just like we said, you want to do it, you can do it. And, it's kind of cool when people find it again, or, or well, I'm not really a musician. I'm just, coming out and experimenting, but at least you get out there. It's like you push yourself to do it, you can do it and it can
Yes.
happen at any
Yes,
age.
you can. That I mentioned we were talking about teaching before,
Hmm.
and those who do that often speak of that light bulb over the head that the kids get, like, oh, I understand this thing, and how that's such a draw to
Hmm.
teach is that
Yeah.
moment of understanding that the kids get and think
Yeah.
that's wonderful. That's one of the reasons you teach.
Hmm.
That moment of I can do this that you get from players, that's one of the best parts of trying to find people is when,
Hmm.
somebody is, well, I'll come try it. And then, 3 years later, they're going, this music is too easy. Can you program something that's harder? that that happens. I won't say a lot, but it happens enough that it
Yeah.
really, really, it makes you feel good inside.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially, you always think about that first rehearsal when they come, where everything just went over their head, just
Yep.
because, of course, they've been out of the game for a while,
Yep.
and then as the
And
years go
I tell them,
beyond.
look, I tell them, come play one piece. You don't, there's no pressure. You can choose out of the whole program what you want to play and just play
Right.
that one thing and play that in the concert, or just play the rehearsals and don't play the concert. No pressure at all. If they stay, they're playing the whole concert,
Hmm.
guaranteed. I've never, as much as I've offered that to people, no one's ever taken the thing that just play one piece. No one's ever done that. Either they don't come back or they play the whole concert.
Hmm.
There's no middle of the road. And even though I keep making the offer, I just want to make it as easy as possible to step in.
Yeah.
When they step in, they really step in.
Right. Yeah.
And because they get it, I think because they get it back. They
Hmm.
get that they realize it's not as hard as they thought it was going to be. And it goes well. And that's the stuff. That's the gold right there. You don't want to walk away from that.
A lot of times I think it's like not necessarily, it would be the camaraderie, but I also think once they're in it, they see it and then they feel like they're part of that, the cog in the wheel, or whatever. And they
Yeah.
even know that they don't want to be individualized, because I noticed that like if you would say, "Hey, come in solo," they would
Yeah,
run
yeah,
towards the
yeah.
door.
Yeah, I
But
try not to do that to people too, if I can help it. I don't, you can go down, you're like, oh, second violins and have them play individually. That's that you can do, but you really need a special group to do that
yeah, to
because
do that,
that
yeah.
kind of thing is going to
Yeah.
scare people if they're new.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, but it's like I think they become a part of it, and I think it's when the concert's happening, they want to be there, because they're part of
Yeah,
that
and if
team.
it goes well, especially
Yeah,
if it goes well, they're so happy.
yeah.
And I love when they tell me that like maybe they couldn't play a particular concert for time or whatever, and so
Hmm.
but they end up coming, like they couldn't make rehearsals but they come to the concert, and then they tell me, I was so jealous of everybody up on stage, I wanted to be up there playing with you. That's awesome.
Yeah. And that's a thing you say in your, the next thing out of your mouth is like, well, we'll see you at rehearsal, whenever the next
Right.
rehearsal is.
Well, in a case like that, you don't have to, they're coming.
Yeah, they're coming. Yeah.
They're already on the team. They just
Yeah.
they when they're not on stage, they feel that
Yeah.
real compulsion to, I want to be on stage.
Yeah.
I want to be playing.
Yeah, because
Great.
it's just for me, I just feel like, and this is something I wanted to say to you and just see, have you expand on it a little bit. It's just, I think it's hard to explain, right? I think it's hard to explain that connection that we get with music. And I don't know what it is, and I always say it this way. I mean, could have the worst day, possible, and I pick up my instrument and within, 10 minutes, things have changed, like in my mindset and all those kind of things. And it's just I try to tell that to people, that music does that. And you made a comment earlier in the podcast, Ray, how, you make your money, but then you do the music for your heart. And I thought,
Yeah.
we'll kind of go there, what you mean by that, if as much of it as you can explain. Just because I feel like music captivates people. And I just feel like that's what I keep trying to share to other folks because, and I was just interested if you wanted to go into a little bit about that, how it.
Well, for the railroad, they make a special point, and actually from the moment you get hired, your primary employment is with us.
Mhm.
We don't accept any idea that there's any conflict that you have. You're one of us on the railroad, and that's your job, which
Mhm.
I get.
Yeah.
Trains run on schedule, and that's fine. But if it came to what kind of conductor are you, the musical kind, of course, because that's that is who I am. That is what I wanted to be from the moment that I started playing the double bass. I wanted to be a musician. That is the thing that I wake up and want to do, and
Hmm.
the last thing that I want to do before going to bed. Not,
Hmm.
I mean, I like my job on the railroad, but it's not. I'm not compelled to do it. I
Hmm.
do it because they pay me.
Right.
Um, well, I don't need to be paid to play music. I do that because I love it. And so that's that's really the core of who I am. So I presume that's kind of what you were getting at, right?
Yeah, definitely.
It's
No, definitely. Yeah. I'm just always asking that because some people, I know it's hard to explain. It's just that connection of where, I say this all the time, and I'm exactly just like you, regardless of money aside, and all this. I know we all have to work and we have to eat and we got to buy things and all those kind of things. But it's just I'm with you too. It's just for some reason I get that connection of music, and it's just I don't know what it is, how it changed, I know what it is, meaning I know it's music, but I don't know what it is about it that just totally just changed my mind. It interests me so much. So many experiences in my life, from going through college, going through all kinds of different things, I always fall back on it. It's always there to provide for me, and of
Yeah.
course, it provides a vast amount of education. Of course, it does that too, but it's more of, just listening to it, performing into it. It's just, I don't know. It's, and that's why I keep
Well, there
trying to
has to
tell people. Yeah.
there has to be so much written or said about that in general, but I make a point of, if I'm not trying to convince somebody to come back to their instrument, that if, especially on the railroad, because a lot of the people that I work with,
Hmm.
that's their life.
Hmm.
They 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 do that, and so many of them are, trying to take assignments that are, long hours so they can make lots of money, which you can do. And you hear tell of these folks that retire and they have nothing to do, and they fade around for a couple of months and then they die because they just sit and twiddle their thumbs and watch TV and go die of boredom. I don't know, but
Hmm.
they've got nothing other than the job.
Yep.
So I make a point of trying to tell people, create something,
Hmm.
whether it's writing poetry or stories or painting or, music, anything that you do, that you create, that you can develop, if you don't have it, some kind of artistic compulsion to do this, then you'll never be bored ever again,
Hmm.
because that's the thing that you feel you need to do. And
Hmm.
I actually feel bad for people that don't have that in their lives. There's so
Hmm.
many people that
There
don't.
is. Yep.
And I I can't imagine, life having value beyond that.
Hmm.
I have no kids, and I know a lot of people live for their kids. That's fine, but I
Hmm.
don't have that.
Yep.
So this is what I have, and I think it's fantastic, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah. Yeah, well said. I know, I think about that. Well, I'll go down the research world, but there's a lot of studies on, retirees that it provides music. And I say music, and I'm agreeing with you. It can be art, it could be poetry, it can
Yeah,
be art in
yeah.
general, it can be anything. You know what I mean?
Just create.
Creating, right? That provides that identity for them, provides something for them to do. And prime example, now, of course, this is, the music example because is what I'm into, obviously. But I was setting up for, we just had I told you, our town's 150th celebration band, and there's this trumpet player that has played with us, and I think he was retired when I first had our community band, and I'm talking, this is like, I don't know, 15 years ago. And I called him up because I was trying to get him to see if he can come and play. And to be honest, I didn't know, I don't want to say the wrong thing. I didn't know what his ability is. He is so busy with
That's
musical
great.
gigs. He's like, and I said to
That's
him
wonderful.
jokingly on the phone, I said, I go, are you retired? And he goes, yeah, I retired and he says 25 years ago. And I go, you serious? He's like, yeah. And I go, wow, I heard retirement life is busier. And he goes, oh, you make it what you want. And he goes,
Yeah.
I'm extremely busy, and that's the way I like it. And and he really wanted to be there, and he had another, event going on. And I get that, and I, appreciate that. But at the same time, I'm like, wow, like how amazing he was, just so involved with so many different things that, yeah, 20, all those years have gone by, and
I, I've I've heard the advice that you should retire into something.
yeah. Mhm.
Of course, it should be something that you like, right?
Yes.
So happy are those who can do such a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I
So,
only have a little left to go before I can retire from the railroad.
well, then
And then
you'll,
I can just do the thing that I wanted to do when I started with the railroad, which was this, the music.
I know, and I know it's going to be an exciting time when that happens, just
Oh,
because, how much how much energy and time you can put into that.
well, I've, you pay attention to different things as you get older, and so I'm watching these things that say, if you retire earlier, statistically you live a longer life. Cool, that's good. You
Mhm.
know, I have a little bit of extra that I could get rid of that would help to live a longer life. But of course, conducting is all aerobic, so that's good. Do more of that.
Yeah.
But I'm I'm I think it would be possible for me to bite off more than I could chew, and do so much that I would create trouble at home, even in retirement. So I I I I must be careful,
Yeah. No, I get it. I
but
get it.
I'm keen to do as much as that I can.
Yeah.
I think it'd be awesome.
Yeah, I know. I always say this. We have the support of our wives. I'll say it that way. And
Oh
then I
yes,
know, and I
oh
know
yeah.
they love it. And I know my wife too. But I also say sometimes I feel bad because we had this past weekend was all like I told you, the 150th anniversary band that I did. So we were very upbeat, and she's involved with that. And then this weekend's a large fireman's parade. So it's from gig to gig to gig to gig to gig. So
Well, as you know, my wife's a clarinetist, and so we often do things together, which is great.
yeah, that's good.
I
Yeah,
I think we've we've discussed it over the years, but I think we're of the same mind now that it's probably best when it comes to artists that if they marry, they should marry another artist, because you see people who don't understand each other because of that. And it's that thing
yeah,
you're talking about, what it is to actually have that feeling of what it is to
yeah,
make music. And if your mate doesn't get it, you know,
yep,
how do you explain it to someone? You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
it's not easy.
yeah. Yeah, when
You
I
can
know,
you can take your time together and try, but
yeah,
good luck.
I know I get asked all the time, these questions, and I know my wife gets it, but it's like, I love to work out. And meaning working out, I like to do meaningful workout. What I mean by that is like I'm a guy that mows his yard and walks. I don't ride anything. I'm the kind of person that
Right.
I will go to a workout, and I have been doing, running and some different things, as like different races, but a parade where you're walking and sweating and you're playing your instrument, like that's like killing two birds with one stone for me. And I get people asking me all the time, "Oh my goodness, how can you do that with the heat and 4th of July and this and how you can do it when you're raining and and all I can say is it's an honor to be there.
Yeah.
It's just like I get such a connection from it. And I know it's foolish when you think about it. It's like, yeah, we're playing, I don't know, six, eight, 10 times or something. Sometimes it's the same tune, depending on where we're at. But it's the engagement, it's the fun, it's watching the audience get excited about it. That's what it
If you
is.
don't like to march, I always recommend the double bass. Not much marching there. Although I will say this, I did do twice
Uh-huh.
uh, a parade where I wore rollerblades and had a wheel for the
Yeah.
end pin
Yep.
and marched with my bass.
Yeah. I was gonna say I've seen him on the street. So
That was on the hill. That was scary.
yeah, it would be.
With level, it's fine, but
It's level. Yeah. You did it with rollerblades. My goodness. I've seen
yeah,
the I've
I was younger then. I wouldn't try that now.
I've seen the wheel on the end pin and people march with it, that kind of thing. So, that's an argument, a whole like marching band argument that, back in the day they used to even carry timpanis, and march with
Yeah,
them. So one guy would
yeah.
have one timpani, you know, and it's crazy because, we don't do much of that anymore, but it's interesting.
In college, there was an electric bass player in the band, and he had somebody who walked behind him with a wagon that
Yeah.
had the amp in it, and they must have had a battery because there was no cord,
Yeah.
from the wagon. So he would march, but what he did was limited where he would go. He
Yeah.
didn't move too much, but electric bass with the band.
Wait, you're gonna
And
find this funny. I'm a traditionalist, when it comes to like, marching band, meaning, and nothing against what's being provided today. I think it's a realm that people are into. I'm just not as much into it. And what I mean by that is a lot of the, marching groups and marching high schools, drum corps, those kind of things, they'll have a pit percussion, they have, props on the field, they have much more visual stuff. And when I took over a high school, they had that. And it was a very small, struggling kind of school, meaning that there was not a lot of participants in it. And there was two guitar players. We didn't really have a lot of other pit performers other than a couple of students, and they were fine being in an actual marching drum line. Well, we were just talking about this the other day, my wife and I. I actually had them buy or the school buy an amp that was battery operated that they strapped to them and they played and marched with that, rather
Wait,
than being on the sideline with the big, amp.
you
So,
see the rig that I use in the Southern Duchess concert band.
yep.
The there's that the batteries for the lawnmower also work for that I don't know, inverter or whatever you call it. So I plug my amp into it, and away you go.
Yeah.
Just put it in the wagon.
Yeah. But I always think
Don't
about
need
that, take
power.
amplification, but
Yeah,
keep that tradition. But and they
I
were
you know
okay.
I that is I just since you mentioned that genre,
Yeah.
I love that stuff.
Yeah.
If you've ever you've been to the competition.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, and I'm not saying like, they're
Holy
amazing.
moly,
Yeah, they're amazing. Yeah.
the thing about them is, you think about what kind of music is
Yeah.
exciting, right?
Yeah.
And the things that really get
Yeah.
you riled up and excited. It's one after another,
One after another. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's like there's there's no down. It's just like
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
and they play so well so often.
Yep.
I think it's a horrible, horrible crime that the winner of the national marching band competition doesn't perform at the Super Bowl.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's the greatest crime for
Yeah, sure.
all
Yeah.
of the band support that was
Yep.
given to the
Yep.
college and high school football teams, that
Yep.
they get to some place like the Super Bowl and there's no then they hire whoever to do a
Hmm.
halftime show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crime,
Yeah.
crime of the century. Every year it happens, and you think
Yeah, there's
you
always
have
an
these
argument about that.
great
Yeah.
bands, great band. I'll tell you
Yeah.
what. Um, in South Carolina, they have a fantastic marching band,
Yep.
fantastic and gigantic. Huge.
Yep.
The guys in the orchestra were in the band.
Hmm.
They played like monsters. They
Hmm.
were
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
The sound they could get out of their horns
Yeah.
was was it was superhuman.
Yeah.
Now, I can see someone saying, yes, well, they don't have the refinement that you get at Juilliard okay.
Yeah.
When I went to Hart, one of those more refined music conservatories, the trumpet players were great. But they had nothing like the power that those guys had from the marching band.
Hmm.
Nothing, not even
Nothing.
close.
Yep. Yep.
Tell you what, given my druthers, I'd take the South Carolina guys over the ones from Hart any
Hmm.
day. And no diss to the Hart guys that
Yeah,
I went to
sure.
school with or anybody else. It's
Yeah.
just that sound. One of the greatest things I ever did musically in my life was in South Carolina. We did the Verdi Requiem, and it was those guys, those marching band guys that were in the orchestra and up in the rafters in the hall where we were. The off bands, the offstage band. That sound, I can sit here and recreate it in
Yep.
my mind, and it was like nothing else.
Yep.
Just sound from everywhere and big brass sound.
Yep.
You can't beat that. You
Yeah.
cannot beat that. That was years later. It's still moving.
That's my has always been my argument. Has always been the conversation because, as you know, I was teaching in higher education for a while and
Yep.
in high schools and different things like that. But it was always the argument of playing pop music during, nothing against pop music, but playing that when you have a band there. for example, like a basketball game, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And making sure that, we were able to play and provide for, the sound because I heard all the time from people that they wanted to hear more from the band, more from the band, and more from the band. And what's difficult is I know it's, they have advertisers and I get all of that too, but, it's like, yeah. It's just criminal. I agree too. It's like
yeah,
it's just especially when you have people there who are doing it, and it goes the same realm for, cheerleaders and the dance squad and all those kind of folks because everybody puts their time and energy into the art. It's like they want to perform, and
yeah.
that's
And they work hard.
mhm. Yeah,
They work hard.
yeah,
If you did that, then you're up early doing drills
yeah,
and during doing the rehearsals
yeah,
and things before you go to class,
yeah,
right? It's
yeah.
a lot of work.
Yeah, I always
And
say,
is the payoff is great for the performance.
mhm,
There are so many good players, but it, the underappreciative nature that comes after it,
mhm.
that's got to take the wind out of everybody's sails.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
That
and I,
that's how do you fight that? I mean,
yeah, yeah, I
you're trying
get
to
that.
convince people that don't get it because they're what they do. I'm not saying what they do isn't something that takes effort, but
Yeah,
is
yeah,
it art? I
yeah,
mean, can you be a football player to an artistic level?
yeah, right. Yeah,
Maybe,
yeah, yeah,
but if you're not, then how do you appreciate the artists that are
yeah,
supporting you?
yeah, yeah. No, and I agree that I know, and it's like it's a hard thing to discuss a lot of times too. And what I always loved, and I've seen it a couple times, even the institutions that I was at was like, the athletes won, whether it was a football player or the basketball players, and they'd actually come towards the band because we would be playing for them and they would show their appreciation, because they would like
That's
dance
awesome.
around. And that's the awesome
That's
part, just
great.
because
Yeah,
that's when, like, because, obviously we've been here just to support you,
yeah. No, that's
it's like,
wonderful if they do that.
you know what I mean? And then, but like, I know I know it's a whole thing. And and the only reason I say that is because in today's world, you know, not pegging fun at the concerts that we do or other people do. I mean, it's everywhere, but most people will see performing groups, meaning music performing groups, at those venues because that's the sporting events that they're going to. So
Right.
you're going to have much more just because there's so many more people going to those events and the popularity. It's a prime time for musical groups and art groups and dance groups to perform there because people can see them. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
always joke when I was it was always my joke with the high school band that I had. I said, for the football games, that was our prime time because that's when everybody saw us. I did not, but I could literally do nothing during the week as a teacher, and it wouldn't matter except for what we did at the football games. But
but like you said, that's the thing that gets seen.
yeah, that's what gets seen.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey,
I,
as we're wrapping this up, I kind of wanted to go back a little bit and just get a little bit of your kind of your philosophy of if and what you do for folks, because obviously the big part of this podcast is trying to get people back involved with music,
yeah,
and back out there performing in groups such as the three orchestras that you run, or other
anywhere,
community bands,
anywhere.
or anywhere,
Yeah,
right? Those kind of things, whether it's orchestra, band, even choir. And I'm saying that
yes.
not trying to be smart here, but any kind of musical groups. And I was just interested to see what you say to folks, as far as to get them to be interested in music and come. And I know you spent a little bit of time talking about that, but I just thought maybe we'd kind of end our podcast with words of wisdom with that,
Well,
if
for me,
that's
I
cool.
always ask people. I ask people if they play an instrument, and like doesn't matter. Somebody at the cashier at the supermarket, or the bank teller, or it doesn't matter. A stranger, just hey, did you ever play an instrument? That kind of thing. And if if they say anything to the affirmative, my follow up is, well, why did you stop? you know, and usually it's because of life, something happened and they
Mhm.
stopped. Well,
Yeah.
you could still do it. You could still play. Do you have a horn? Do you have an instrument? No. Well, you can get one cheap. Garage sale or even in a music shop, you can get one cheap. Somebody probably give you one if you knew someone that had one lying around. Do you want to play? Because I know places you can play. I know places that would
Mhm.
be dying to have you. And so I'm I'm finding it easier as time goes on because I've having done that a bunch now. I find I have repertoire that I can aim at people, and it sounds duplicitous, but it's not. I wanting them to play. I want them to get out and do something, and I don't care where they play, just play. So if if we can get people to play, that's great. If we don't get them to play, but they can get interested in it again and maybe come to the concert as listeners, that's great too. And if they don't play, but it might encourage them to get their kids to play, that's great too. There's whatever it takes. But I'm shameless about just using that as a conversational tool, and I don't care what the scenario is. Do you play an instrument? You look like a violinist. Are you play violin?
Well, that's good.
That's actually worked out sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
What makes you think I'm a violinist? Well, you look like a violinist. What do violinists look like? Like you.
Uh,
I used to play violin, but I don't play anymore. Well, why not? But I'm and I can't believe it was available, but the domain name for orchestrainfo.com was available about a year ago, and so I scapped it up. And my thought was I would just use it for the orchestras that I run as a place to say, like, this is our concert information. Here's links to the music you can download so that you can get it ahead of
Mhm.
time or whatever, and that it was a reference for the musicians. I started putting some like lists of other groups you could play with, and it's grown now. That so the homepage, there's the three things that I do, and then there's this list by county in the Hudson Valley of all the different ensembles that you can go play with.
Mhm.
And some of them are professional and some of them are community groups, and there's orchestras and bands, and I think there's a flute choir in there, and whatever else, whatever I and it's not complete. So if anybody has suggestions, they can contact me there, and
Mm.
I'll make the additions. But it's also now where I send people. So look, hey, write this
Mhm.
down, orchestrainfo.com. Go there, and find a group near you, and there's the contact person. There's the phone number or the email, and
Yeah.
call them and see if they'll want you. They'll want you. They
Yeah.
want you. And I made a bunch of pencils with the orchestra info thing on it, and so I give them out everywhere because it's 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 important that we get people to play.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, I don't care where they play, just play,
Mhm.
go play.
Well, very well said. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. And I'll put that in the comments of the video here. So,
Ah,
all of you have that so you guys can check that out. But definitely, I mean, there are places out there and just as Rich said, I mean, they will want you because
yes, they will.
I keep saying this anyway, even if there's a lot of musicians into, a different group, doesn't matter because, having a large amount, things come up. And what I mean by that is, sometimes not everybody can be there, for various
Right,
reasons. And
that's true. To be perfectly honest, though, they tend to want strings more than they want. Well, a band will want lots of winds, but if it's
yeah,
an orchestra, usually there are only two clarinet parts.
yep,
So
yep,
that's a harder option, but
yep,
it's not impossible. And like you said, sometimes people can't make it, and so they
yeah,
they need a sub, or they need somebody who's going to be an auxiliary and just be available. So
yeah,
you can play.
yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that, Rich. And I just want to say thank you so much for being on the podcast. And
Pleasure.
you're an inspiration for doing all the things that you're doing. And what I mean by that is, and not to be smart here, you literally could have taken the path of just, okay, well, I got to make money like everyone else,
Well, I kind of
sometimes
did.
say, but you're still doing music though.
Yes.
You know what
Well,
I mean?
I could not do it.
Yeah.
When I first, to be honest, when I first started with the railroad, I was gigging all over the place, and I was
Hmm.
driving an hour or two to get to orchestra things and whatever. I played every weekend all over the place,
Right.
and I had to give all of that up
Yep.
because the railroad was absolutely 100% monopolized my time. I gave up everything, and I actually dealt with some depression after that because I felt
Hmm.
like I had put my eggs in a basket and I failed.
Yeah.
Now I'm so glad I did what I did. If I
Yeah.
if I only knew at the time, like,
Sure.
don't worry, wait it out, you're gonna be fine. I wouldn't have believed it. But
Right.
now I'm so glad that things turned out the way they did.
Yeah.
But it was I had to give it all up at the
Yeah.
time and then come back into it, which is the thing that I'm trying to do to other people.
Yeah. Well, and you just said that. I mean, there's a time. I mean, there's unfortunately, life brings that, and I know it's, just like you said, life happens, it's like unfortunately you have to make money, So
Jobs
it's
happen, kids
job
happen,
happen,
all
kid
sorts of things
happen,
happen.
whatever happens, but it's what's inspiration is that you kind of kept it in your DNA and you kept using it and you kept playing and you kept bringing it and you keep providing it for others. And it's something that's on the horizon for you, as, the job ends or whatever ends or
Yes.
this ends or
Yeah.
whatever, but you've found a way to make it work, and that's what, I have to say, even though that, maybe it doesn't work all the time, but
No.
it
Well,
does
it
work.
can't work all the time. But I think, and that this may be what keeps people from jumping back in is you
Hmm.
have to be okay with it not working all the time.
Yep. Yep.
That it works sometimes is good enough.
Yep.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Next
Hmm.
time it will work better or not. But then
Yeah.
the time after that it'll work better or not. And the time after that it'll work better or not. But just keep trying.
Keep trying. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know there's certain groups, and I will one that we're in, Southern Duchess, community concert band. We always talk about it all the time that his philosophy is come when you can come,
Yes.
and I am a prime example. I am there and I eventually go on vacation for a couple weeks and I miss part of the season. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then I bounce back at the end of the season, and it works, and that's why and it works just because everybody's on a different schedule. So that's how it works.
Yes.
So, and I don't think people understand that because I think they think that once you're in, and you have to
Well,
be there for
from the
every single
conductor's
thing.
perspective, from the conductor's perspective, and I'm sure you know
Yeah.
that when you have everybody at every rehearsal, you can prepare things very quickly,
Yes, you can.
and you could do things in no time at all and
Yep.
be ready for the concert. But typically, you have lots of rehearsals,
Yep.
so you have a built-in cushion for people to not be there once or
Yep.
twice.
Hmm.
But that also leaves room for the people who maybe they're not convinced they could play the concert, but they could be a sub. They could
Yep.
come play for that clarinetist that can't make that rehearsal. So they could just play that one time and no
Right.
pressure.
Yeah.
There's room for that.
Yeah.
People don't realize it, but it's there.
It's there.
Happy
Right.
to have you.
Yeah. Yeah, because the minute, we always say it this way, you kind of help out, and then before you know it, there's going to be more
Yeah.
and more opportunities because, and it's not that
Yes.
people are leaving. It's not, it's not that. It's just that, life's busy. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly right. Exactly right.
so. Well, thank you so much. And, I also want to say, I appreciate, you have a great following in all your orchestras. I know I've been playing under you and doing different things too as well. But, thank you for offering those, to the community and kind of keep music alive. So we appreciate that just because I know, just like I said, and I said it before, but, you could not do those kind of things. And there is groups out there, for everybody. And, it's nice that you're encouraging people to come out and, be involved with them because it's I don't know, it's just I'd love everybody to play. I know that's not going to ever be possible, but
Me too.
it's just, the more we can get out people to get out there and people like yourself who's providing, such great programs, that's where it happens.
So
That's where the
I'll
magic
keep doing
happens.
that until they pry the baton from my cold, dead fingers.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's
That's a little extreme, maybe, but the
yeah,
point is, I'm not stopping. I'm
yeah,
only going to
and
do more.
yeah, and that's great. And keep it going. So, all right, thank you so much, Rich.
The pleasure's all mine.